Just so you know, this is our inaugural post-COVID gathering for this recognition. So we're certainly happy to have you here this evening. And we haven't had a Volunteers Award live since 2019. So this is a special night for all of us, and particularly for those who are being recognized.
What? On your iPad? And Apple never lies.
Is it setting? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our sixth meeting for 2022 of the Quispamsis Town Council. It's wonderful to have you all here this evening. I'd like to acknowledge Deputy Mayor Schreier, who is on virtual line tonight, and I guess welcome Councillor Miller. I just saw you come in. So I'd like to have the approval of the agenda, please. It's been approved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. All those in favor or opposed? We have in favor with Councillor Miller. If you are, do you have the voting up?
Yeah.
Okay, please vote now. We'll give you a moment to get your computer open, Councillor Miller. Approved? Motion carried, 7-0. This evening, the comments, I guess, from my desk are that I certainly encourage people to use the COMEX, which is our community express bus, heading into St. John or from St. John to Quispamsis, both in the morning and the afternoon. We are one of the leaders in this town for trying to cut down on our greenhouse gases, and certainly with our climate change committee, we're working very hard to get messages out to the community. And we've just had a partnership with MB Power, and we have been issuing some devices that will help cut down energy loss in your home. So there's that, and also don't forget that Earth Day is on Friday, and if you wouldn't mind doing some cleanup around your property and perhaps out on the front street, that would be helpful to everyone and makes our community look more beautiful. I would ask Councillor Luck, please, to do the treaty acknowledgement and the Ukraine Solidarity and Moment of Reflection, please.
We would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet, and Micmac people, whose ancestors, along with Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the descendants of this traditional territory. We would also like to take this moment to reflect on our solidarity and support for the people of Ukraine, acknowledging that Canada has the third largest Ukrainian population in the world, behind Ukraine itself and Russia. And may we remind ourselves of the important work we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias, and always in the best interests of our community, which we are here to serve.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. I'm looking for a disclosure of interest. I don't see any. We will move now to the presentations, the reason why most of you are here this evening. And Councillor Mike Bigger will read a little introduction on the people that have been nominated and who are the recipients this evening. We will also, I will meet the recipients down here in front of this table. We will have a picture taken, and we've had the reception ahead of the presentations. So after you receive your gift, your acknowledgement, you are certainly welcome to stay and watch our council proceedings this evening, or you are free to leave at that time. So I will leave it to Councillor Bigger to introduce our first recipient.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to let the mayor make her way around there. Our first recipient is Arthur Siprick of the KV Food Basket. Art, as he is referred to from the Food Basket, is currently in his third year of a 3-year term as board chair. Outside of the KV Food Basket, Art has also volunteered with Meals on Wheels, is an active board member for the seniors housing complex operated by King's Church, and is also very active in his church. Art's nominator says that he always shows great compassion for our clients and will always go the extra mile to ensure that no one goes hungry. On many occasions, he has met people in need of food in the evening to ensure they and their children have the food they need. So please join us in congratulating Arthur Siprick, will you? Our second dedicated volunteer to recognize tonight is Denis Talbot. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. Is it Dennis or Denis? I can't. Denis, thank you. From Fundy Gymnastics Club, pardon me. Through his 15 years of dedicated service as a volunteer board member, Denis has ensured that the club has always had well-maintained equipment and facilities, often going above and beyond to make sure this happens. Two events that stand out in the mind of Denis' nominees are that during the club's expansion in 2013, he was paramount in moving the club forward. Then a few years ago, Denis single-handedly dug a trench through the snow during a power outage to create an irrigation ditch for snow melt to save the club from any flooding catastrophe. That's dedication. Denis' nominator says that he is an incredibly hardworking and selfless person. With 3 kids in their program, he transcends the benefits of his own personal self-interests. As a volunteer and through his multi-talented traits, he would be a benefit to any organization, yet I doubt, they say, the Fundy Gymnastics Club would ever be willing to let him go. Please join us in congratulating Denis Talbot. Very nice. Sorry about the name there, Denis. Our third recipient tonight, Dr. Lisa Yang of Kennebecasis Valley Community Caring for Children, KV3C. Dr. Yang has been actively involved with KV3C since 2006, joining to assist in planning special events, and in 2010, assuming the role of chairperson, a position she has held until 2021. Lisa has always been passionate about the important role that community plays in the early childhood development, especially in family situations where daycare and preschool are not an option. Lisa's nominator says she has demonstrated perseverance and dedication with her long-standing service to KV3C, donating much of her time, energy, and family members to assist in the efforts of the organization over the years. Please join us in congratulating Dr. Lisa Yang. Great. Our fourth recipient is Sherry Curvin of KV Pickleball Club. With over 80 active members and 9 two-hour time slots per week, Sherry was instrumental this past year in allocating equal and fair court time to the membership. You know, those pickleball people, they can get a little, During the past 2 years of COVID, Sherry was a great juggler of the court time when people could not use their designated time due to illness and getting the slots filled daily by those on the spare list. This was a challenging and time-consuming role which she graciously took on. Sherry's nominator says that she's always organized and very committed to ensuring all their players were provided a fair amount of time on the pickleball courts. Sherry warranted respect and praise from the players in the day-to-day management of the difficult schedule. So please join us in congratulating Sherry Curvin. Yeah. Our expanded court's coming. Our fifth recipient is Dean McLean of KV Minor Baseball. Dean has served the past 9 seasons as a team manager, board member, and is currently in his 5th year as president of the association. Dean has coached teams in the KV since 2013 through to the present and is highly regarded and respected in both the local provincial, baseball, and hockey worlds. Dean's nominator says he is a thoughtful, kind, and common sense type of leader, with one of his favorite sayings being, "Say what you'll do and then do what you say." It's good advice. Although Dean's son is no longer involved as a participant, Dean remains dedicated. KV Minor Baseball feels lucky to have him remain such a large part of their organization. Please join us in congratulating Dean McLean. Our 6th recipient is Karen Parker of KV Girls Softball Association. Karen first signed up to volunteer in 2015 as a field helper when her daughter registered to play. She quickly became an essential volunteer as team manager and quickly moved into a role on the board of directors and tournament chairperson for the U14 Fast Pitch Tournament in 2019. In 2021, Karen moved up to the position of vice president within the board, training new board members and overseeing the summer students. Karen's nominator says that her cooperative attitude and resourcefulness are vital to KVGSA running a smooth program. She's always moving forward in solution mode to get things done in a well-organized manner. So please join us in congratulating Karen Parker. Our 7th recipient is Amanda Rouse of Girl Guides of Canada, Kennebecasis area, former neighbor of mine. Amanda has been a member of guiding in the Kennebecasis area for many years, including as a girl member. She's been a leader for Girl Guides, Pathfinders, and Rangers, and is a current leader for the Joint Pathfinder Ranger Unit. Amanda is also responsible for creating Kennebecasis Cares, a group that helps feed numerous children in our community who struggle with food insecurities. She also distributes lunches and hampers in partnership with the KRPF, our police force. Amanda is a strong advocate for youth in our community. Her nominator says that she is deserving of this award as she is the epitome of the guiding laws, building people up, supporting growth and positivity, especially by being a sister to all women and girls. Please join us in congratulating Amanda Rouse. Congratulations. Our 8th recipient is Tim Lowry from Parkland in the Valley. Tim has been an active volunteer with the Morning Coffee Club at Parkland since September of 2015. Tim shows up every morning, Monday through Friday, to make the coffee and pick up the freshly made muffins from the kitchen for the residents. Tim's nominator says he's very deserving of this award for his camaraderie with and his many years of dedication to the residents of Parkland in the Valley. So please join us in congratulating Tim Lowry. Tim, I like Raisin Bran muffins, just so you know. Something to keep in mind there. Our 9th recipient is Constable Sean Toner of the Kennebecasis Regional Police Force. Outside of his role of constable with the KRPF, Sean is often found behind the scenes as a volunteer for a variety of events, such as the Tanya Shan Memorial Fund, Tanya Shan Milk and Cookie Run, supporting women and children living with domestic violence. He is a board member of KV Oasis Youth Center and donates his musical talents to help out whenever needed. Sean's nominator says that he can often be perceived, due to his quiet nature, like me, as under the radar when it comes to volunteering. However, you quickly notice that he attends most events and never looks for acknowledgement, but keeps showing up. We believe that Sean Toner exemplifies the meaning of community service. Please join us in congratulating Sean Toner. Our 10th recipient is Tina Cooper with Hockey Ministries Atlantic. Tina has been an active volunteer with Hockey Ministries for many years in a variety of roles, from event planning to serving as a staff member. She's always active behind the scenes, never looking for attention or acknowledgement. Tina's nominator says that her pleasant personality makes her a delight to work with, as she possesses the heart of a servant, always willing to give when there is little in return, adding so much to Team Hockey Ministries. Please join us in congratulating Tina Cooper. Our 11th recipient is Nita Driscoll of Kingsway Care Center. Nita was introduced to KWCC through her mother. After her mom's passing, Nita continued visiting the residents, spending time and helping where she's needed. During COVID, she has helped screen visitors, given directions, and alleviated the loneliness and boredom within the home. Nita's nominator says she is a wonderful lady who always is available to help. Many residents consider her a dear friend. We're fortunate to have Nita as a volunteer. Please join us in congratulating Nita Driscoll. Our 12th recipient, I'm going to give this the old college try, is Romaine Torresia. Have I got that right? Even close? Okay, thank you. Of Fundy Soccer. Very forgiving individual, obviously. Romaine's love of soccer is clear, but his love for the community is even more so. On almost any field, Romaine can be found helping, watching, or chauffeuring his own 3 children or the Spanish international students from local high schools. He has stepped up to coach a U13 competitive team and is currently completing his Canadian Soccer C license. When not on the field, he volunteers on the Fundy Soccer Board of Directors. Romaine's nominators say that he and his family are warm and inviting, which has led to community connections that will no doubt last a lifetime. Please join us in congratulating Romaine Torresia. Our 13th recipient is Regina Christie, Chris Saunders Memorial Elementary School. Regina has been a dedicated volunteer at CSMES since 2015. She's served as vice president of the Home and School Association, coordinated the grade 5 closing each year, and oversees the library program. Regina steps up on numerous occasions and is always willing to help when needed. Regina's nominator says that she truly cares about the school and the best interests of the students and staff. She is a truly kind and caring individual. Please join us in congratulating Regina Christie. Our 14th recipient, a couple more, is Mike Curry of Yamaji Dojo Martial Arts and Fitness Center. Mike is a military medical veteran who feels the effects of PTSD after service overseas. Mike volunteers countless hours at the dojo, helping with the kids' programs and tutors teens free of charge. Mike is always there with a listening ear to those who need one. Mike's nominator says that he helps out at the dojo, improving the lives of children physically and mentally, and in turn, making him feel whole again. Please join us in congratulating Mike Curry. Our final 15th recipient is Grace Anderson of Royal Canadian Sea Cadet Corps Bras-d'Or. Chief Petty Officer 2nd Class Grace Anderson joined Bras-d'Or 268 in 2015. She was a member of the Corps Band and was responsible for supervising, training, and the general well-being of all the cadets. Grace volunteers with Poppy Drives, serving meals for veterans, the Lions Club, Quispamsis tree lighting, and the annual KV Santa Claus parade. Grace's nominator says she was an enthusiastic and dedicated instructor who continuously strove to improve her abilities. She was firm but fair when evaluating the cadets. Please join us in congratulating Grace Anderson. Perhaps Grace couldn't make it due to the weather or something, so congratulations nevertheless.
community of choice, and that's on you. So thank you very much. It certainly is appreciated, all the hours and work that you put in, because I know that probably some of your work weeks are not as long as some of your volunteer weeks. So thank you very much. As I say, we're very happy to have you here this evening. You're welcome to stay and follow through with the rest of our evening. However, if you'd like to go, this would be the time. I think we're finished as far as pictures are concerned, so thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll just wait for Councillor Miller. Welcome back, everyone. There is a motion. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move on behalf of Council that we congratulate and applaud the recipients of the 2022 Volunteer Recognition Awards in acknowledgement of their many dedicated contributions and services to the community of Quispamsis and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Thank you. Motion carried 7-0. Public hearings, item number 6. There are none. Minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Donovan.
I would move that the minutes of the April 5th, 2022 meeting be approved as prepared.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 8A, unfinished business, review of council code of conduct, bylaw, staff report from acting CAO, and copy of current bylaw showing proposed changes. This is a bylaw that is renewed following every election of council, and it would require a motion. Don't see any lights on. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move the council direct staff to prepare a draft amendment reflecting the proposed changes as recommended by the acting CAO and previous council discussion.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question. Okay, just 1 second, please. We will go to Deputy Mayor Schreier. Deputy Mayor Schreier, can you hear me? You're on. Your mic is not on.
Unmuted? Am I unmuted now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Continue.
Oh, sorry for the confusion. Yes, I do have a couple of comments on this. And first of all, under the section under conflict of interest, it states, I'll give you conflict of interest. It's number G on the document. I was wondering if maybe we should include from the Local Governance Act on there, because I would assume the Local Governance Act supersedes any bylaw that we have, and this bylaw doesn't go into the same depth that the Local Governance Act does. So especially on the conflict of interest for numbers G. So I would like to see that even if we make reference to it, you know, that to see that for more information, look at the Local Governance Act, just to make sure that all the information that a councillor needs is available to them without having to search several documents in order to find that.
We can have that link included.
Thank you.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under the section where it says use of municipal assets and services, it states that no councillor shall use town assets, including town cell phones or town email accounts for, it used to be provincial or federal political activity, but now it also includes municipal. So I guess I'm having a hard time understanding what constitutes municipal political activity, because you would think logically that anything that we do on this laptop that has to do with the town hall would include municipal political activity. So if somebody could give me an example or allude to that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Acting CAO, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Donovan, that would basically be applicable in the month preceding a municipal election. So when you go to the returning office and file your paperwork, that you shouldn't be using the municipal cell number and municipal email address, that sort of thing. Certainly everything leading up to that is obviously political in nature, but just during that writ period, they would call it at the provincial and federal level, but just in the time leading up to the election, once the campaign begins, that shouldn't be used for that purpose. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two comments. One was actually along the lines of Councillor Donovan's, and I'm wondering if perhaps that line could be clarified, similar to what our CAO has alluded to, perhaps where it's political, like campaigning activity, because right now it does seem a bit contradictory, because right now municipal political activity is what we do. So if we could just maybe clarify that in terms of adding a spot about campaigning political activities, just so it is a little bit clearer, because I actually was wondering the same thing. And then the other thing around complaints, I see, I guess under the complaint section number 4D, we've taken out a few things in terms of the nature of the complaint. And I'm just wondering if there should be a section in there. We talk about the council may dismiss the report or complaint if it's invalid. We might actually look at getting a legal opinion. Nowhere does it actually look at perhaps getting a response from the person being complained about. And I'm just wondering if something like that should be, I don't know if it's a given, but it's not clear in kind of the process, if we shouldn't perhaps have something where there's either a rebuttal or the defense can offer an alternative perception of the the events that took place. So again, I'm just wondering if that needs to be hashed out a bit in that section. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Typically, when a complaint comes in, it's not up for debate. It's a charge or an accusation against one of the councillors, myself, or the deputy mayor, and it's not up for debate. So it wouldn't be something that would typically go before a councillor that is under accusation of something that is not in line with the position that they hold. So that would be my take on that, and that's the way that it operates, I believe, throughout the province. So when this was mandated, it was stated back in 2018 that all provincial municipalities had to have a code of conduct, and this was, and we also go to legal advice as well. So as far as notifying that person, that wouldn't be what we would have done under previous charges.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, and I appreciate that. It's, and again, maybe we could get some clarity from the CAO, just so I'm clear on the process. It appears that now a complaint would come in, it would go to all of council. So the person, the member of council that has been complained about would hear about it at the same time as the rest of the council would. So I guess I'm not looking at debating it. I'm looking at, it's hard for council to make a judgment perhaps in certain situations if they just have a letter written with no context. So I just didn't know if there should be something similar to request an opinion, a legal opinion regarding the report or complainant. If that would also be, because it's hard for council. I'm thinking if someone, lodged a complaint against one of the council members, as a member of council, I would like to know the details. And I guess I'm looking at this feeling like sometimes it's really hard to make a decision just by one person's report on a piece of paper. So I just didn't know if there needs to be a bit more detail in section D to make sure that all the information is collected before we either dismiss it or decide it's valid.
Thank you. And as I said, my experience in this is that information is collected on the complaint, and then it goes before legal advice. And that's that is the process that we collect the information, the investigation is done. The way this is going to be done now, it will be actually investigated by legal counsel. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. If you look at the number 4 complaints, the A portion of that, any person in good faith may report perceived wrongdoing or make a complaint alleging a breach of the council code of conduct by a councillor. All reasonable attempts shall be made to keep the reports and complaints confidential until a full investigation is completed in order to protect the councillor and the complainant.
I'm sorry, Councillor Thompson, I didn't hear what you said at the beginning of that. Were you making a point to that?
I was just saying that it's fully investigated before it even comes to council, before a complaint or a report comes to council. Generally, it's staff investigates the complaint first, or yes, it's generally staff first, or it goes through legal, whichever way, sort of. But I'm just saying, in the A portion, it says a full investigation is completed in order to protect the councillor and the complainant, or the deputy mayor, or the mayor, whoever the complainant is.
Thank you. Yes, the investigation takes place first before it goes before council for a private vote. And that would take place before coming public. It would take place privately. So, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a point of clarification, staff has nothing to do with that process. When a complaint comes in, it's sent to the attention of the mayor, it's sealed, it's listed as confidential as per the bylaw. Staff doesn't know anything about that, so staff is not involved in that process whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that Councillor Thompson's focus there on Part 4A kind of does make the important point, and thank you to the acting CAO for that clarification as well. I was just thinking that, you know, there's a spectrum of delicateness across which, like, a complaint comes in where it could fall, and so certainly the investigation would reflect that as a component part of, you know, of determining the right course of action and when and how and so on. The council in closed session should be updated on that situation. But ultimately, of course, it seems to me that because we operate as a council unit, that we would all need to be aware of what's going on, not pre-investigative perhaps, but certainly it's important that the council be aware of what's being brought forward as a complaint ultimately, because it's, in essence, it's a reflection on the entirety of the council as we try to work as a team, I think, to a certain degree. So I'm not advocating for airing dirty laundry or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think, to me, that's the counterpoint that, you know, I appreciate what Councillor Luck's saying, certainly, that we want to have the proper details in the right context, and as the acting CAO points out, obviously that's not staff's job to do, but rather legal counsel takes that on, investigates as necessary, and then it comes before the closed session when it's the right time. And I think that that's the best process for us to move forward with.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. And again, it's to certainly follow the rules of conduct and to ensure that proper behavior is demonstrated towards self, other councillors, staff, and residents, and that is the key component. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm not in disagreement with anything that people have said, but one thing that seems clear is that there's some unclarity around this section because Councillor Thompson thought it was staff. We had to get clarity from the CEO that it wasn't staff. It says in A that we're going to keep it confidential, but then in B it says it's going to basically show up on the committee of the whole first for us to peruse it. But then there's nowhere in this section, and it says we might check with the lawyer because a piece that's missing is in the past, it would actually be the mayor and deputy mayor and one of councillors that would investigate it. So my point is that if this is going to be a code of conduct where we want to keep it standardized, it has to be clear, and I think there needs to be a bit more clarity because even obviously tonight it's written that there's a bit of ambiguity. But I think that we should clarify because in the past, most things have stayed the same, but one big chunk that we've taken out and really haven't clarified is the fact in the past, it was the mayor, deputy mayor, and one of the councillors that was going to investigate the complaint. Now we're just saying it's coming to the committee of the whole, and then we're going to dismiss it or, move forward with it and then obtain legal counsel, but we've missed a piece saying how and who is going to investigate it. Yep. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
So going back to that, it is going to be investigated by legal counsel. So if a written code of conduct breach comes in, it's going to be investigated by legal counsel. That's where we are now. We've taken out the mayor and deputy mayor, or if the perceived breach is by the mayor or deputy mayor, it would be council that would, it would be the deputy mayor and one councillor, or it would be the mayor and one councillor if the deputy mayor makes a breach. So it's going to be investigated. If there is a letter that comes in, it would be investigated by legal. The advice from legal, we would move from there, and it would be council's decision after that to decide what sanctions are applied.
So thank you for the clarity. If that's the case, could we have it written that way? Because right now, it's unclear. So if that is the process, we need to be moving the second point where we request an opinion regarding the report or complaint. We don't actually ask our legal people to investigate it. We're asking for an opinion. So again, I don't have any issue with how it's, like the intent of it, but it seems like all of us have a slightly different interpretation. So I just think it needs to be finessed a bit so it's very clear that when all of us read it, we say this is step 1, step 2, step 3. Right now, I feel like there's a little bit, again, of ambiguity in terms of when we get to see it, who's doing the investigation, and maybe it's more just the wording of it and how it's worded in the document. I mean, I don't have any issues with what you said and what the process is. I just think that the code of conduct should reflect whatever process is actually going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure that the numbering is correct on that. And Councillor Thompson, is your light on? No? You're orange on my screen. I'd like to go to Mr. Kennedy at this point.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did want to draw council's attention to Section 4, Part F, which is new. No complaints will be accepted in the 90 days preceding a general municipal election. We had some discussions with our solicitor about that, and my feeling was that that's there to protect council from a potentially malicious political accusation in the time leading up to a municipal election. In other jurisdictions, in other provinces, that seems to be somewhat standard. There's actually something happening in British Columbia right now where they've got elections scheduled for the fall, and they've amended their bylaw to stop all complaints under the code of conduct from proceeding from now until the election, which seems a little too long. I don't know if council wanted to think about that, about the 90 days or 60 days or 30 days. And potentially, as I talked about this and read over it on the weekend, whether it might say no complaint will be accepted in the 90 days or whatever number of days council's comfortable with preceding a general municipal election. But obviously if the councillor, if that member of council is reelected after the election, should there be something in there to say that that complaint would then move forward? Because obviously if the member is reelected, it would still be germane and applicable. And if the member's not reelected, then obviously it's moot because then the code of conduct no longer applies because that person is no longer a member of council. So I did want to just identify that one as potential point of discussion. I thought someone might have brought that up, but just since it hasn't come to this point, I just wanted to point that out, that there was sort of some discussion internally and with our solicitor about the merits of the 90 days, that maybe that's too long, maybe it should be 60, maybe it should be 30, and maybe there should be a designation there that it won't be accepted within X number of days, or it won't be accepted or won't be considered until after the election. And the only other thing I wanted to point out, Your Worship, was just at the end, which is really just housekeeping about the review, where it said must be reviewed every 4 years following the general election. Well, as we know, our last 2 general elections are going to be 5 years apart, so we just wanted to change that. Rather than doing it 4 years, let's just wait until after the election, and whether it's 5, 6, or however long they happen to be in the future, that might be a bit cleaner. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I'm going to go to Deputy Mayor Scryer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to ask actually about F. No complaints will be accepted in the 90 days preceding a general municipal election. And thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for expanding on that as to the reasons why that was added. I would suggest that perhaps the 90 days is a little long. You know, we know when our elections are. They're always the first week of May, or the first Monday in May, or second Monday in May. So you're talking about March, April, 2 months. Most people don't start to campaign until at least then. Where I struggle with this one is if there's no complaint received and the councillor is reelected, and the complaint then goes forward after a re-election, and there seems to be appears to be an issue, then how do we deal with that then? It looks a little gray to me, and I'm not 100% sure on it. So there's too many ifs. What if a councillor was found guilty after they were, or found to be in violation or of the code of ethics after they just had a successful election? What if, they don't run and it's just thrown out? So I'm not 100% on this one yet. I need to think about this and maybe get a little bit more clarity on it. And like I said, I do appreciate the CEO's comments tonight. And I'm not sure how to proceed with that one. I'm not ready to vote on this one yet and say, yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Scryer. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, following along the Deputy Mayor's comments, I guess I'm kind of okay with the 90 days, but I think there's always got to be a clause there unless there's something of great magnitude that needs to, and that could be at the discussion of however we end up wording it, the solicitor or whatever, because if there's something very egregious, or like my words are not good, my math is, that would be the time that, regardless of the days, if it's something really bad, it's got to come out right away. But that should be at the solicitor, I guess, if we're going solicitor, that would be at the solicitor's discretion and an agreement of council, because there could be something come up that needs to get out there, that if a person does get reelected, that they're probably going to get punted right away, as an example. So it would have to be something really bad. That's my only comment on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Subject to all of the discussion that has taken place in this particular item, I would respectfully move that we table the issue and refer it to the CEO for further clarification of the items that have been discussed.
Thank you. Had we already had a motion? Is the motion to be withdrawn? There's already a motion on the table.
There's a motion on the table for council to direct staff.
I would move that we withdraw the motion.
And the new motion by Councillor Olson is that it be tabled or...
Yes, Your Worship, I would respectfully request that we table the item until, and refer it to the CEO for further clarification, whether that can be completed for the next meeting or until he has dealt with our solicitor and had clarification of the different questions that have been raised.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question? Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Schreier?
No, I'm voting yes.
Oh, okay. On the question? Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item 8B, Hammond River Park driveway resurfacing, staff report from Director of Community Services. You have the information in front of you. Councillor Bigger.
Yes, the Director of Community Services might wish to comment on this, but I'm certainly prepared to make a motion that council add paving the driveway and parking lot at Hammond River Park to the 2022 Street Capital Program, with funding for this additional work coming from the Canada Community Building Fund / interest, operational savings within the community services, or capital reserves if needed. I believe it was 20.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I'm in favor of it. I just have a question whether we're doing both layers of paving or just one. Because when we've done our other parking lots, we've done 2 layers, like at the Qplex and things like that. So is this just require 1 layer? Or does it require 2? And if it requires 2, are we going to get both done right away?
Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. The reason we did the other parking lots at the Qplex took a phased-in approach because they were much larger and the scope of work was significant. So this would be the completion of the driveway and the parking at Hammond River Park. And I would like to add that we do have some savings in the street capital program. So the budget was $125,000 for the parking lot into the Millennium Cycle Bike Park. With this, when the street capital project numbers came in, it was $99,000. So we're actually going to have enough to pave both parking lots with that $125 that was budgeted for the one item at the Millennium Cycle Mountain Bike Park. So that's where that funding will be coming from.
Thank you. Director Burton-Dixon. On the question. Don't see any. Please vote now. What's that? Motion carried, 7-0. Item 8C, request from Canada Games Aquatic Centre COVID relief funding. Staff report from Town Treasurer Krista Brandon. You had the information in your packet. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that council approve the request for additional funding for the Canada Games Aquatic Centre due to their unfunded liability plus interest that is now due in the amount of $66,661.41, with funding coming from any 2022 surplus or the general operating reserve.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Luck. On the question, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. By law, we have to pay it anyway, so we're going to have to do it. So I know when they were out here last meeting, we were talking about different options, I guess. For 2023, I'd like to see some of the options, see what's going on, because in the last few years, so this is over $100,000 we've added in the last 2 meetings on top of what we did already. Last year, we also, if I recall, and looking at our treasurer, I think we actually gave some to capital, either last year or the year before as well, to the so, which we don't normally do, so we made an exception there as well. So I'd just be interested to see the longevity and the viability of this long term, because it seems to be getting more and more expensive and older. So just a comment, so thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I'm going to go to our treasurer. Mrs. Brandon, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to confirm the amount is $60,666.41. I think there's a typo in the motion. 60,666.41.
Thank you. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just would add my agreement to Councillor Miller. They've come before. I mean, we're mandated by the regional facilities, to do our part, and we're glad to do that, I'm sure. But they made mention when they were here the last meeting of how the city of St. John was throwing in their $250,000 or something to assist, but with the caveat of really insisting on some crackerjack business strategies for the future. And I just would really underline the importance of that. I mean, the Aquatic Center is a wonderful facility, and I certainly support this motion and our part, and we have many people who enjoy it and make use of it, but I'm concerned about its long-term commercial viability. So I would just echo that as well and just stress that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. And I might remind you that my time on the regional facilities, we did have a new CAO at the facility, and the Aquatic Center was turning around and going in the right direction, and then we were hit by COVID. And when you have a facility that is totally reliant for revenue on membership and on classes that are taught and so forth, they were hard hit and hard done by during COVID. So hence the the shortfall. So just a little bit of clarity. Councillor Donovan, again, your orange light is on. It's showing up, but okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the table. It was moved by Councillor Olson and seconded by Councillor Luck. Thank you. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Moving on to item number 9, correspondence. There is none. We will go to item number 10A, bylaws. KV Custom Homes rezoning application, proposed zoning bylaw amendment number 038-35, residential R1, single and two-family to residential R3, terrace dwellings. Property identified as 124 Pettingill Road, PID number 302-16527 and PID number 0025-1694. Please note, third and final reading to only be considered if the developer's agreement is signed by the applicant. Council will be updated on the agreement status, and I think we had that this morning. So we will go item B, proposed. No. So item number A, do we have the proponent here? Good evening. Would you please give your name for the clerk?
Andrew McIntyre.
Thank you. And did you have anything further to add to your application?
Nope. Everything's
Any
all good on
questions
my
from
end.
council? Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and nice to see you again. Thank you for being here. I'm looking in the developer's agreement. I believe that's what the third attachment is that we have here. And I'm under Schedule C, and the section on land use, Section 2 under Section C, under Schedule C, excuse me. And it's really just a point of clarification for my own information as I learn about this stuff more and more. But 2C says the use set out in B1 shall be developed in accordance with the terrace dwelling residential zoning bylaw requirements unless otherwise provided herein. And then the next part, D, says conversion to condominium use shall require approval of council of the town and be subject to such further terms and conditions council may require. And I'm just trying to understand what the distinction is between terrace living and condominium living, given that there would be a homeowners association, and you've talked about how that will work together to keep the grounds nice and so on, and to make people responsible for it. And I'm just wondering, it's not something that I'm feeling negative or anything about. I'm just curious to know the distinction, because to me that they seem very much like the same, but obviously they must not be.
I feel the same way. They are very similar, and I had asked Dwight about that, and it's more that with the homeowners association, you're gonna buy your own place, you're gonna own it, you are responsible for it. With a condominium, if we looked at them, I would have to have insurance on the entire building. I am responsible for a lot more things outside of just looking after your lawns, taking care of the wells and stuff. So there's a lot more incorporated into a condominium act. It kind of goes homeowner association, strata, condominium. So we're in it's very simple. We do the very basic things, look after you, make sure you're taken care of, as opposed to insuring the building and multiple other things. So it's just it's kind of like the step-by-step process kind of deal. So yeah, but it is kind of, it's a tough one to understand.
Thank you. Dwight or Deputy Mayor? No, Dwight. I'm going to go, before I go to the Deputy Mayor, I think I'll go to Mr. Colburn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So through you to Councillor Biggers' question, the main difference is that the condominium would be registered with the province, so it would fall under the Condominium Act of the province. So there would be bylaws that would be registered with the province. There would be reserve funds that are created that are held in trust by the province. So there's annual audits and those types of things that would happen with the Condominium Act. So there's extra layers of regulations that would have to be followed, and adds an additional level of protection, I guess, if you will, to the actual members of the condominium association. So that's sort of a slight difference. So the reason that wording is in the bylaws, because when you're moving from a homeowners association, which again has bylaws and those types of things, when you're moving towards a registration with under the Condominium Act, one of the requirements is that the municipality has to sign off on it and approve it. So that would sort of have to come back to the municipality to get approval before then moving towards the province to actually get registered under the Condominium Act. So there's an extra layer, if you will, of reviews and approvals that are required as part of the Condominium Act requirements. So that's the reason why it's in the development agreement that would actually come back to council. So I trust that answers and clarifies that item in the development agreement. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Thank you from Councillor Bigger. Councillor Donovan, please.
You can go to the deputy mayor first if you want, because she had her hand up.
Yes. I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Schreier. Deputy Mayor, your microphone isn't on. Just give us 1 second here. We'll get you up and running.
Okay, I think it's there now. I think they've got it,
We
right?
hear you, yes.
Okay, so thank you, Your Worship. As I said, my question is through you to Mr. Colburn, and I have a couple of questions. First of all, is on the submitted the traffic study. So the town agrees to cost share for the portion that the study as it relates to the left turn warrant analysis at Kensington Avenue and Pettingale intersection with a total upset fee has for the town's portion being agreed upon prior to undertaking of the study. So I have a couple of questions about the study is, first of all, if the traffic study comes back saying, no, we don't want the intersection there, we've already held a public meeting that we've told people where the intersections are going to be or access to this development will be. So how does that all pan out? And what exactly, why would the town be involved in the cost sharing proponent of this?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Colburn, if you could respond to Deputy Mayor's questions.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, Worship. So the traffic study is still required, and the actual intersections of where they're shown in terms of the site plans and what's been presented at public hearing is still the intended location of the access. Traffic study will still be required in terms of the impacts of the full build out from that particular development into the Pettingale Road, looking at any direct impacts it would have on the current traffic patterns in the area. What's identified in terms of cost sharing and in terms of town is that as we move forward in terms of capital street upgrades and looking at potential upgrades on the Pettingale Road, this was seen as an opportunity to look at this particular area because there are times when there is queuing that's happening during either the school hours. So it was an opportunity to just basically team in this particular study just to identify that portion of the analysis. So outside of that scope, that was not something that probably may not have been identified as such, but this is an opportunity to include that within this particular study. And the item that's in there in terms of an actual cost is we want to look at what that cost is, so we have an opportunity to review it. And if it's beyond what we feel reasonable in terms of cost, then we can withdraw sort of that cost sharing arrangement at that particular portion. So that's why there's an additional caveat in there about being agreed upon prior to undertaking the work.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. I just, Your Worship, if I may, just to follow up on that, I just want to make sure it was clear because sometimes people are going in and out on me. So in the public presentation, it said that the entrances, there were two entrances identified on the plan. So we will still be going ahead with those entrances. There's no change to that whatsoever.
Through you, Worship, that is correct. So the proposed speed limits that's shown will remain.
Okay, thank you. And Your Worship, thank you for your indulgence. I do have another question for Mr. Colburn, and it has to do with every phase will have my understanding every phase will have a hydrogeological study done before that phase commences. I'm just wondering about the part where it says the developer shall submit proof of an application to the province of New Brunswick for environmental impact assessment screening for the entire development. So that part is not phased in, and so I'm wondering how that all pans out too. Mr. Colburn, my main concern being, of course, and the developer has many times said that he's very concerned about Ritchie Lake and that he knows that that's a big concern of ours as well. Is this the section that will address the drainage if anything should happen to prevent anything happening to Ritchie Lake?
Through your worship, so this particular item is covering an application. So an application goes to the province looking at the overall build out of the development in terms of impacts, in terms of water draw. So under the Clean Water Act, it says where a development extracts more than 50 cubic meters per day, then you have to submit, basically, you have to apply for and register for an environmental impact assessment. So this particular development to submit an application for screening to make sure that it falls under the particular provisions, whether it would require a full EIA or if an individual to comprehensive water study per phase will satisfy those requirements. So the stormwater modeling part is looking at in terms of stormwater management and protection of Ritchie Lake from that particular perspective. The EIA is with respect to waterworks, actually drawing water, groundwater out to service the dwelling units.
Thank you very much. And Your Worship, if I may, I just have one question for Mr. McIntyre, and it has to do with the timing. I see that he's under some tight time restrictions. I guess if this goes through tonight, once this goes through, then he would start in August. Is that my understanding, Mr. McIntyre? If you could just expand to me your timelines when you expect to break ground and start actual building.
What we're gonna do is, after tonight, we would look at getting the road opened up in order for us to get in to do our well. And we have to remove the trees just in the road. Like, we flagged out only the road section to remove the trees for now, get our well in, and then we're gonna start working on our infrastructure. And then we would work on clearing just 2 little sections to put in a few of the buildings, and then work on getting the building permits issued. And we're hoping to do that by August for 2 of the buildings. And then we would like to have 1 more building going up for the winter time. And at this point here, we have a lot of interest. So we've kind of already got 5 of the units plus already in a light way spoken for. Yeah, so we want to move it ahead as quick as we can so we can get this done and least disruption for the neighbors as possible.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scryer. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. While this is not the affordable housing development that I've been patiently and painfully waiting for, it is still housing nonetheless. And I think Quispamsis, if I'm being honest, I think that's one of the downfalls of our town is there's just not enough housing to meet the demands. And I've accepted that, different varieties of housing are needed to suit people in our community. So with that being said, I would move that Council amend the zoning bylaw to permit the following property to be rezoned from single and 2-family residential R1 to terrace dwelling residential R3, subject to the property owner entering into a development agreement pursuant to the provisions of Section 59 of the Community Planning Act 2017, Chapter 19, a parcel of land identified as PID number 302-16527 and PID number 0025-1694 with civic number 124 Pettingill Road, consisting of approximately 4.7 hectares or 11.32 acres of land with access off the Pettingill Road and Heritage Way. Read first time March 15th, read second time March 15th, and read the third and final time on April 19th, 2022.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, Councillor Miller. Oh, okay. Sorry. On the question, one more time. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number B, proposed bylaw amendment number 036-05, bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting signs. Staff report from municipal planning technologist Jennifer Jarvis, and Jennifer is in virtual attendance this evening. Hello, Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would you like me to continue with an introduction of the bylaw?
What's that? We have the package here in front of us. Councillor Thompson, did you have something to say?
Thank you, Your Worship. Whereas a notice has been published on the Town of Quispamsis website pursuant to Section 15.3 and 15.4 of the Local Governance Act, and whereas the proposed bylaw amendment 036-05 received first and second reading at the April 5th, 2022 regular meeting, and further proposed bylaw amendment 3605 is hereby summarized as follows. To provide the definitions for traffic control devices and feather signs, to restrict the location of political signs in relation to any traffic control device, to make civic numbering on freestanding signs mandatory, to provide provisions regarding the use of feather signs within the municipal boundaries, to improve the provisions to regulate and display of sandwich boards, and to restrict the placement of all signs within 1 meter of any town-owned property with the exception of traffic-controlled devices and signs placed by or for the town. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Quispamsis give third and final reading to the proposed amendment number 03605, an amendment of the Municipality of Quispamsis signed by law incorporating the aforementioned changes.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thompson. Seconded by Councillor Miller on the question. Seeing there are none, just checking for Deputy Mayor Squire. Please vote now. Councillor Miller? Motion carried 7-0. Item number C. Proposed zoning bylaw amendment number 038-37, a bylaw of the Municipality of Quispamsis respecting zoning, regulating apiary, hobby beekeeping operations. And again, we have the report in our package. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would make a motion that council refer the proposed zoning bylaw amendment number 038-37 to the Planning Advisory Committee for its written views and set a public hearing date for May 17th, 2022 to hear and consider those wishing to speak for or against the proposed zoning bylaw amendment on the bees.
Motion's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a quick question around the public hearing. I know when we're doing rezoning, we send out letters to people that are 100 meters away. But in this case, I guess is there any way we can mail letters to anyone that we know does do beekeeping? I just would hate for someone that does do beekeeping in our community not to know this public hearing is taking place. I know it's hard to believe that some people aren't. Well, yeah, so I guess I'm not sure how we're gonna get the word out, but. So anyway, I guess that's my question is there a way to make sure that the people that are impacted by this bylaw know that there's a public hearing? And I guess what's our plan to make sure that they are aware? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Ms. Jarvis?
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand that we want to reach everyone in the community that does hobby beekeep, and we do know of a few. I just don't know how complete that list is. I can certainly ask for our GIS tech to look and see with her magic eyes what she can find for us and try and decide that way. But I think public notice on our Facebook, etc., social media, the word of mouth probably will travel quickly on this one, I expect. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. Ms. Jarvis is our municipal planning technologist, just for those at home who may be wondering. Sorry, I didn't introduce you properly the first time. So we have a motion on the table. It was moved by, oh, Mr. Colburn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship, to address Councillor Luck's comment. So in terms of public notice in this particular instance, because it's a zoning bylaw, we basically follow Section 111 of the Community Planning Act that simply requires us to post on our social media, our website, 21 days, minimum 21 days, not more than 30. And then as well as if we could advertise in local papers. So at minimum, that's what we're required to follow and under the Community Planning Act. So anything above and beyond that would be a decision would be made in terms of through the clerk's office. But that's what governs the public notice in this particular case. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. So it's been moved by Councillor Miller, moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Moving on to new business, item 11A, proposed earlier start time for council meetings, staff report from acting CAO, Aaron Kennedy. Again, the information was in your package. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, I'm not the biggest fan or spokesperson for an early start time. I feel like, you know, I feel like it's almost like a segue. We're being led to 3 days, and then that 3 days is going to turn into, you know, or 3 months during the summer, I guess, is going to be turned into the year, whether it's explicitly stated or not. You know, I feel like we're a group of problem solvers, and I don't know if we, you know, throughout the staff report, it's always been said, you know, our staff are here longer. Well, we've just voted to give staff, you know, an extra day off. So I feel like it's kind of fair, even if they do have to stay for a few more hours with us, you know, given that they're getting an extra day off. And also, like I was just saying a minute ago, you know, we're a group of problem solvers. One of the things was, you know, the public has to stay longer. You know, there's a simple fix to that. I think we can rearrange our, you know, e-scribe agenda or our regular agenda, whatever. We can rearrange it to make sure that our public presentations or our correspondences from the public are at the very top instead of having them in the middle or to the very bottom. I mean, that's just common sense from my point of view, but I mean, maybe other people might not see it that way, but those are just my thoughts. But I don't know if I'm supportive of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually think Councillor Donovan is onto something in terms of perhaps, you know, again, when the situation arises and we have a number of people presenting, if there is flexibility to add people to the top of the agenda, that would be something I would definitely support, so we're not making people sit so long. But in terms of the actual change, my one concern to changing it to 6 o'clock is we've already cut the council meetings to 1 a month. So now instead of having 6, we only have 3. So if we push it back to 6, my worry is the time we need, which we always seem to need time for committee of the whole, gets cut back that much more. We've already cut them because we've already cut a meeting per month for those months. So again, I'm just worried that I mean, the work is still going to be there in June, July, August. And I just worry that, if we push it back to 6 and already have cut a meeting in the summer, we're not going to have the time to get through all the things that we need to get through. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. And I'll just remind people that we can always stay later as well. We can go back after regular council, which we have done in the past. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I was going to point that out, that that what you just said, Your Worship, that we could always come back and return if we found that we needed to do that. But I'm generally favored. I look on this with with a lot of positivity. I think that I take the point that Councillor Donovan and Councillor Luck make about wanting to maybe adjust our schedule when we have public here for presentations and so on, and we've done that on the fly, I think, a little bit as well, periodically when we try to move people up in the agenda and we just sort of vote on it quickly and do that. But I think it's, generally speaking, a positive idea. I recently I've had a couple of meetings recently with KV Oasis Youth Center. They were at 5:30 in the afternoon. Right now I'm practicing with the musicians that will come with me to East Coast Music Week. We begin at 6 p.m. our practices. After everybody works their full days, we meet at 6 p.m. Because everybody just wants to be done as soon as they can be. And it doesn't seem to be off-putting to anybody in the circles I'm traveling in on those things. Now, there's various and sundry reasons that it doesn't work for everybody. And there's no one size fits all, I suppose. But I think the spirit of this makes sense. I like the idea of being able to alleviate a bit of time on the staff who are here all day. So just wanted to offer those counterpoints.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, for the summer, I'm okay with 6 o'clock as well, because we do have less meetings, but we also could have more public hearings, I believe, as well. So instead of being here till 11:30, we might be here till 10:30. So it'll actually give us a little bit of extra time. And also, depending on what's on the agenda, if we think a public hearing, some people may be coming here a little bit later, we can always do reports beforehand and things like that and move the agenda around. One of the concerns I have is just on the cow for the closed meetings, if we could keep those at our current time, because if we do have to come back, then great, but I'd find it difficult if we move that up an hour, because at least in my instance, I have a hard time getting here sometimes for 5, that I'm just worried that if that can stay the same, and if we have to come back after, then we come back. But it would still give us potentially some extra time. That the cow is my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. And I will just remind people that at one time we did come much earlier for closed, and what we are doing is having so much more disclosed in open council. So the time frame necessary for our closed meetings has diminished quite considerably, and certainly if there isn't enough time, we will come back after. So rest assured to that. And of course, if this is a motion of council, then just to put minds at rest, if it's for the 3 meetings during the summer months, then it is only for those 3 meetings, unless there is a change to that through a motion of council. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I mean, I'm fine with the 3 months during the summer. That doesn't bother me. I'm not a fan of having to do this throughout the year. I think people work, and I feel like it's going to be a hectic sort of mess to try to deal with, at least for some people, maybe not for others. But yeah, so if we want to do this for the summer and that's what council would like, then I'm perfectly fine with that. But otherwise, I'm just not a fan of doing it throughout the year. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. And again, the motion clearly states that it is for the months of June, July, and August. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that council move the start time of the June, July, and August regular meetings to 6 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item 11B, tender number 2022 TQ03-7, the supply and delivery of one heavy-duty cab and chassis 4x4 crew cab with 10-foot dump body, model 450 or equivalent. Staff report from Director of Engineering and Works. And again, you had the information in your package. Councillor Miller.
I was going to move, based on staff review and information, it is recommended that council authorize staff to directly purchase a new 2022 4x4 crew cab from Dobson Chrysler Dodge to Lounsbury Automotive Limited for the bid price of $74,585, exclusive of HST licensing and tire levy. Additional costs for the truck purchase will be assigned from any 2022 surplus if any are realized or reallocated of capital reserves.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item 11C, award of tender number 2022 TQ03-10, Street Capital Program 2022. There's a motion. Councillor Bigger.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that council award tender 2022 TQ03-10 2022 street upgrading to the low bid from Debley Enterprises Limited, and to enter negotiations with the low bidder to structure the tender value, remove a portion of Meanans Cove Road, as well as Sylvia Drive, Swanton Drive, and Muriel Court in their entirety from the project scope in order to adjust the project costs to $2,199,000 exclusive of HST. Once final project costs are accounted, any project cost beyond the current allocated budget will be redirected from any budget surplus in 2022 or be redirected from capital reserve funds.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger. Looking for a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the Director of Engineering. I guess just a question, I'm in agreement with what was proposed. My question is if there's going to be a fee charged if we vote for Delby here, if there's going to be a fee charged to it, then maybe we relook at it and see whether we complete other streets instead of, because I'm just saying, I know last year when we added on, I believe, when we added on the Quispamsis Road, there was an extra fee added on to that. And if there's becomes an extra fee, we're trying to cut $400,000, but if there's going to be a $75,000 or $100,000 fee, we might as well continue on. I guess that's just kind of a comment. Thanks.
Your Worship, the point of original contract, when we renegotiate the scope, as long as we remain within that 25%, normally there's not an adjustment to the fee, the unit quantities. So in this one, we're at 18.4% of an adjustment, so we should be within the contract limits. That does not require any renegotiations of unit prices. Last year, if you recall, we were over, we added some and then we added some more again, so we actually exceeded because we had a smaller capital program last year. We got to that 25% more quickly. So here where we get such a big number, we're dropping it down, and so we're still within that 25% that we generally like to use, and most contractors will for a $2.2 million project, they're not willing to give that up relatively quickly if they don't have to.
Deputy Mayor Schreier. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
I've got it now, Your Worship. It takes a while for them to unmute me, so I have to wait for it to come up before I can click on it. My question was on the, just the wording of the motion and, through you to Mr. Loge. It almost sounded to me like there was two motions in here, and it was along the same lines as Councillor Miller, is they're being awarded the street upgrading to the low bidder, Debley Enterprise, and to enter negotiations with the low bidder to structure the tender value portion. The tender value remove a portion of Means Cove. So are we looking at two different, is one removal and one is actually resurfacing? I'm a little confused on the motion. Thank you.
Your Worship, it is all one motion. It's just structured that way. It's basically entering into negotiations with them to create the contract for this particular project. All we're doing is identifying the scope of the project. It's the same thing as I mentioned to Councillor Miller a little earlier about the when we can add streets. It's the same thing when you take it out. It's basically what we're doing is agreeing with the contractor what are the limits of the job going to be. And we do that with all our projects, essentially, Your Worship. Once we get to a bidder, we make sure that we have our initial meetings, we identify the scope of the project, so it's all under the same motion, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Loge.
Thank you, Mr. Loge. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Schreier. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the Director of Engineering. I just have a quick question. I'm in support of it. I'm just wondering, through our asset management plan, of course, we identify the worst roads, and we have a lot of them this year just because we've all been hit very hard, all the communities. And I'm just wondering, are we going to incur additional costs? Because, in terms of kind of nipping it in the bud now versus letting it get worse, is the cost going to be the same if we because there are some roads, Means Cove being one of them, that's in pretty dire straits. So if we let it go another year, it's not going to cost us more to do anything with it next year. And I guess that's my question. Thanks.
Your Worship, no. That's why we selected the streets that we're looking at. The 3 streets that are in the direct path of potential development, theoretically, if we did it in ahead, it would be worse and we would be spending money twice. So that's why we opted to remove those particular streets. As far as the Means Cove Road, in doing our assessments, we felt that we could get another year or 2 out of the unfinished portion. I think of benefit for us is that we will be constructing that portion of the Means Cove Road with the upgraded AT standards that we're looking to introduce. So that is to have a dedicated cycling lane and a shared cycling walking lane on one on each side. So we'll have a wider asphalt surface. We'll see how that is. The perils or the trials that we have of installing that on that particular right-of-way width. We know that we'll be faced next year with additional costs because of the substation to move power poles. They're about $5,000 to $8,000 a pole to move them in the vicinity of that power station. So it actually was a good thing that we pulled it back, because right off the bat, we would have had probably another $20,000 just in electrical work. So we're saving money in the long run.
Thank you, Mr. Loge. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Loge. Just out of curiosity, the cost of asphalt considerably higher this year?
Your Worship, yes. Last year, our tender unit price was $83 a ton for the average price for the contract. This year, it's up to $113 a ton. In the region, we've seen prices, the lowest I've seen so far is at $105 a ton, and it's been as high as $132 a ton in some of the bids. So we prepared our projects at the time of budget using $95 a ton. And then this spring, before we released it to tender, we revised our limits and our pricing based on at $100 a ton. And so it was a little higher than we thought it would be, especially when we saw the city, for example, is at 105, and we thought we would be a little closer to that. But the projects, everybody's busy. We had one of the contractors basically come up and say, we're so full up with work, we can't bid your job, and that's why we only had 2 bidders. So it's a cost of doing business, and we're waiting to see how the year goes, to see what next year brings. But there's some indication that 2-digit asphalt ton prices are a thing of the past.
Thank you, Mr. Logier. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. On the question, seeing there are no more questions, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 12, reports. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Worship. I'd move we receive and file reports.
It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, Councillor Donovan, did you have a comment on that? No?
Seconding.
Okay. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 13, business arising from the Committee of the Whole. There was none. Item number 14. I hope everyone finds joy when they step outside in this rain this evening. Councillor Olson, please.
Move adjournment, Your Worship.
And it's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Safe travels, everyone. Enjoy the liquid sunshine.